Well, good evening. Let's start off with a word of prayer tonight. Heavenly Father, we are thankful for your goodness to us, thankful for your love. We're thankful for the rain today. We know the farmers needed it, and our lawns and gardens, you could use it as well. We're thankful for all the ways that you provided for our needs. We do pray that you'd bless this time that we have together, that we would honor and glorify you in it, and we'll thank and praise you in Jesus' name. Amen. First off, for those online, we do have a background because we're getting ready for VBS next week. So the sanctuary is going to become the corral. You can't see the walls with the fences, but it'll be more corral-ish by next week, I think. And I don't have my guitar because we have a visiting pianist with us tonight. So you have it on? Oh no, is it on 58? We're going to start off with hymn number 58. This is My Father's World. I probably should have given you the numbers or something.
This is my Father's world, and to my listening ears all nature sings, and round me rings the music of the spheres. This is my Father's world. I rest me in the thought of rocks and trees, of skies and seas, his hand the wonders wrought. This is my Father's world. The birds their carols raise, the morning light, the lily white, declare their Maker's praise. This is my Father's world. He shines in all that's fair. In the rustling grass I hear him pass. He speaks to me everywhere. This is my Father's world. Oh, let me ne'er forget that though the wrong seems oft so strong, God is a ruler yet. This is my Father's world. That all is not done. Jesus who died shall be satisfied, and earth and heaven be one.
And then over to hymn 478. Soldiers of Christ Arise.
Soldiers of Christ arise, and put your armor on, strong in the strength which God supplies to his eternal Son, strong in the Lord of hosts, and in his mighty power, who in the strength of Jesus trust is more than conqueror. Stand then in his great might, with all his strength endued, and take to arm you for the fight, the panoply of God. From strength to strength go on, wrestle and fight and pray. Tread all the powers of darkness down, and win the well-fought day. Leave no unguarded place, no weakness of the soul. Take every virtue, every grace, and fortify the whole, that having all things done, and all your conflicts past, he may, or come through Christ alone, and stand complete at last.
All right, and we are continuing in the Proverbs tonight. Proverbs chapter 24. I had like 3 different working titles. I put one of them online. I think I put Wisdom for Our Politics. It wasn't? Well, that's really weird because the LibreOffice was still there. I had Chrome open and I had the streaming open. It must have someone must have hit a button. So did you put a title or anything? Just put a date? Okay, well, we'll have to go back and fix it later or something. Proverbs 24, wisdom for our politics, or wisdom for this election year, or a word about politics. I don't know how you want to do it. Now, you might think, oh, it's already an election year. Haven't we had enough politics? And I think sometimes as believers, maybe we've had too much politics, and we need Solomon's wisdom for our politics, because that takes the politics out of it. I think we're all pretty tired of politics. I found it interesting when President Biden said, I'm not running for re-election. I think that was on Sunday he did that. I'm not going to run for re-election. That it was not 2 seconds later that a bunch of people said, well, I certainly hope now that Donald Trump is the oldest person running for president that he's forced to step down because he's too old to run for president. And I thought, the only reason they didn't say that until that point was because Biden was still running for president and he was older. Well, for the people on the other side of the fence, it said Biden should step down because he's too old. I expect them to be very forthcoming with, in a year or so, saying Donald Trump is too old to be president. It's only fair. But that's what's wrong with our politics, is there is no fairness in it. So I'm not going to attack Donald Trump or Kamala Harris or J.D. Vance or one of the 5 or 6 people on Kamala Harris's short list to be vice president, or Chase Oliver, or who is it? Robert Kennedy? Is that who it is? Robert? Something Kennedy. Yeah. Robert Kennedy, yeah. We're not attacking any of them. We're not going to attack anyone running for Senate or anyone running for Congress, because when you preach, you really shouldn't be attacking people outside. God's word should be attacking things in our life that need to be attacked. So that's where we're attacking tonight, is we're attacking ourselves and attacking those things that we need to do, wisdom that we need to incorporate, especially in an election year and when we deal with politics. But don't worry, if you're not into politics, these things also apply to how we treat people in general. But I notice a lot of Christians getting worked up about the election, and well, that's actually where we're going to start. Verse 19 of Proverbs 24, Solomon says, fret not thyself because of evil men, neither be thou envious at the wicked. Now, we're only going to deal with the first phrase of that verse first. Fret not thyself because of evil men, but I wanted to read the whole verse. Anyone know what that sounds like? Another verse? Ooh, Kaylin does. Do you know where it's found? Psalm 37, verse 1. Fret not thyself because of evildoers, neither be thou envious against the workers of iniquity. Because as the grass, they shall soon perish. As the green grass, they shall soon fade away. Trust in the Lord and do good. Psalm 37 was one of those that Mr. Ron Smith in my church growing up challenged us kids to memorize. And then whenever a kid said he would memorize it, Ron Smith memorized it in the translation that the kid said he was going to memorize it in, so he could check any kid at church word for word without opening his Bible. So he knew it in the NAS, the NIV, the KJV, and I don't know if he got any others in there. He memorized it in all of those, and I can still remember some of that psalm because of that. It sounds like Psalm 37. Where do you suppose Solomon had heard this wisdom before? From his dad. There are times I open my mouth and my dad comes out. In fact, I was talking to my dad last night, and at one point he laughed and he said, "Yep, you're my son." Then I was talking to my dad's sister, my aunt, today, And she said something about me sounding like my dad. Well, I wonder why that is. Solomon, you could say, oh, well, he stole this from David. Well, Solomon, where did he get his wisdom from? God. God says, ask me what I shall give you. And he says, I'm just a novice. I can't go in and out before this people. I need wisdom to rule this people. And God said, because you have not asked for your enemies, neither did you ask for riches, but you asked for wisdom. I will give you all of this. So wait, how did God give him wisdom if he stole this from his dad? I learned that sometimes it takes a while for the wisdom of the father to be passed to the child. And I'm not talking about my children. I'm talking about me as a child. It took a while for some of that wisdom to pass. And Solomon, when he got wise, recognized the wisdom of what his father had taught him and what his father had written in a psalm. So the first wisdom for our politics: fret not thyself because of evil men. Is anyone in politics called evil? Or an existential threat to democracy? Or going to ruin the world? They're going to ruin our economy. They're going to ruin this. They are awful people. They're all the time. How should we as believers respond? Fret not thyself because of evil men. I was curious because that is exactly right out of Psalm 37:1, and actually Psalm 37:7 or 8:2 talks about not fretting as well. How many times in the Bible fret not occurs? It occurs in the Psalms and it occurs in the Proverbs. This is a Davidic phrase. And I wondered, why has it only occurred in Proverbs and Psalms? It's because the word that's there, the fret not, is only translated fret not in the Psalms and in the Proverbs. Everywhere else it's translated not, or actually it's not, most of the time it's not a negative. It's translated to get angry with. So the negative would be, don't get angry with evil men. Or don't get angry, don't get worked up about evil men. Well, I think that's some wisdom for our politics, isn't it? Don't get worked up about evil men. We can always go back to Psalm 2. He who sits in the heavens shall laugh. He shall have them in derision. Why do the people imagine a vain thing? Well, it doesn't matter. God's in charge. Don't fret about evil men. And when we see that word fret there, we get the idea of worry, which it has to do with that. But it also has to do more with the getting worked up and getting angry about evil men. We've got way too much anger in our politics today, and the church is not exempt from that. There's a lot in the church that are angry over politics. Wisdom for our politics: don't fret. Don't get worked up about evil men. Now, our nation wants to evoke anger against the other candidate. They feel like that's the way they're going to do it. A clean election today means you're always attacking your opponent. But we don't want to evoke anger against a politician or a party or a platform. As Christians, that's not to be our response. Fret not thyself because of evil men. Solomon got it from David. Now think about David's political life. Don't get worked up over evil men. This is advice David gave. And Solomon heard, but he didn't just hear it. He saw it. Solomon saw it because his brother tried to take his father's throne and somewhat succeeded, and his brother tried to take the throne that his dad had promised to him and did it for a while. So when he says, fret not because of evil men, as a believer in the United States, we can't say, but you don't know what is at stake. This was written by a man whose life was in jeopardy by his political opponents. Now, you could say, well, Donald Trump there was an attempted assassination. Yes, and the young man that took a shot at Donald Trump had some strange political affiliations. He was a registered Republican who had donated to a Democrat, but he was not there on behalf of anyone, Democrat or Republican. He had some major problems with both Biden and Trump. David also started his political career running from an enemy who was a political opponent. And how did David treat both of his political opponents that tried to kill him? He said about Saul, I will not lift my hand against the Lord's elect. And he said about Absalom, do not kill the lad. He had the authority, he had the opportunity at times. He could have, but he didn't. And he says, fret not. And his son, who watched his father, lived through all of that, said, don't get worked up about evil men. So when the news starts talking about how evil this candidate is or how bad this candidate is going to mess things up, as believers, fret not. Don't get worked up about it. Now, if you're saying, well, I'm pretty relaxed when it comes to politics anyway. Well, this doesn't just apply to politicians. Fret not because of evil men. Don't get worked up over those that are doing evil. Now, does that mean that if we see someone doing wrong, we shouldn't try to correct that wrong? If you see someone abusing another person, by all means, we are supposed to step in and help protect the oppressed. But don't get angry. Don't fret about evil men. Second part of that verse, neither be thou envious at the wicked. Don't be jealous of the wicked. Well, why would we be jealous of the wicked? They might drive a nice car. They might have been giving opportunities that we think they don't deserve. They might have richer friends, a bigger house. I saw a picture of, I don't know if it's Bill Gates's main house or one of his houses. The description said it was 66,000 square feet. Anyone know what the average house size is in Lake America? I think it's somewhere just right around 2,000 square feet. So Bill Gates's house is approximately 33 normal houses, size-wise. Inside, there's a trampoline room with a 20-foot roof. 20-foot ceiling. The roof's on the outside, ceiling's on the inside. It's just massive. They go, well, why should he have that? Who cares? I have a roof over my head. I'm not going to worry about it. Don't be envious at the wicked. Now, I'm not saying Bill Gates is wicked. But sometimes people will latch on to, well, this person is evil or this person is wicked. They shouldn't have what they have. And people get jealous over them. Don't be jealous about what the wicked has. You know what happens when you get jealous over what the wicked has? That temptation to do what the wicked has done becomes stronger when you're jealous over what the wicked has. Because if they have it, then I could certainly have it too. And if I got it the way they got it, I could get it the way they got it, because if they got it that way, I could too. When we're jealous or envious of the wicked, eventually it will creep in that we're envious to do what they've done. And the very thing that we've put them down about or we've judged them about, we'd be tempted to do. Why not? Why shouldn't we fret about evil men? Why shouldn't we be jealous about the workers of iniquity, be envious at the wicked? Verse 20. Right verse. For there shall be no reward to the evil man. The candle of the wicked shall be put out. Don't be envious. Don't fret about the evil men, because they will have no reward. You say, well, yeah, but what about the reward they have right now? It's not a reward. It has no value. They will have no reward. Their candle will be put out. Now, we could probably argue around in circles the poetic meaning of candle. There's a couple different options for there. Candle in Scripture refers to light. So their light would be put out. And even our world talks about knocking someone's lights out. Their candle would be snuffed out. Normally refers to their life being taken. So whether it's they will have no light, they will have no life, they will have no lamp, no prosperity, they will not thrive, they will not continue, they will be put out. There is nothing worth envying that the wicked has. They could have the nicest car and the nicest house, and God says there's nothing that they have that's worth envying. Don't be envious at the wicked. That comes in with the politics too, Verse 21, my son, fear thou the Lord and the king, and meddle not with them that are given to change. We all hate change when we hate change, right? There are certain changes people don't like. Changes to their schedule. Changes to the things they like to do. Like if you had a favorite loaf of bread that you got from the store and they changed it, you don't like that. Everyone hates change when it affects them. So we could say, meddle not with them that are given to change. Well, anytime something changes, then we could bring up that verse and say, liking change is bad. So when we got rid of the pews and put in chairs, that was bad. No, it's not change in that way. The change there we're going to find is having to do with rebellion, which comes in fairly good with the politics. And the beginning of the verse, my son, fear thou the Lord and the king, deals very well with politics too. Fear the Lord and the king. Fortunately for us, we've got a president. Do you think Solomon was limiting his advice to monarchies? A monarchy is where they have a king. To maybe just constitutional monarchies or theocracies, like he was the king, so of course he's going to write that, right? My son, fear thou the Lord and the king. The third piece of wisdom for politics, after not fretting about evil men and not being envious of the wicked, is fear God and your rulers. It'd be nice if it said, my son, fear the Lord and something less than fear to the king, right? And be good to the king. It's the same word, though. Solomon uses one verb and says, do this to God and do that same thing to the king. It's the same verb applying to two different indirect objects. Those would be indirect objects, right? Direct objects. Oh, right, the indirect object is your fear. That's what's being given to them, is the indirect. Good thing we have an English person here. Us math people, we're lost on the English. The same verb. Fear God and your rulers. Well, what's it mean to fear them? Well, I'm afraid of what President Biden's going to do next. No. Well, I'm afraid if President Trump becomes president again, what he's going to do. No. Well, I'm afraid if Kamala Harris becomes president, what she's... No, that's not the type of fear. This fear is honor and respect, because hopefully we're not afraid of what God is going to do. I have actually uttered something very similar to that once or twice in my life. Like, it almost scares me what God might be preparing me for at certain seasons of my life with what I was going through. And I thought, oh, I know what I'm going through. God's preparing me for something. And there were times I was afraid of that. But this is fear as in reverencing and respect. Fear God and your king. Fear God and your president and your governor and your congressperson and your senator. Fear God and your rulers. And on the flip side of that, meddle not with them that are given to change. Meddle not with them that are rebellious. Don't go with the rebellious. Because he who walks with the wise grows wise, but a companion of fools suffers harm. You know what happens to companions of those that are rebellious? They're the ones that end up in the wrong place at the wrong time and say, well, I didn't mean anything by it. I was just in the wrong place at the wrong time. Well, there's a way not to be in the wrong place at the wrong time most of the time. And then that's by being careful of who you hang out with. You say, well, where I work, I have to hang out with certain people. Yeah. That's a different thing. Now, who we hang out with, who we spend time with, who we refresh ourselves with. Don't be rebellious or go with the rebellious. Don't associate with those given to change, with those that are rebellious. Do we have any rebellious people in politics today? Well, if that person becomes president, they're not my president. I'm sorry, are you rejecting your citizenship? because that's the only way they're not your president. When Donald Trump was elected back in 2016, well, that's not my president. He's not my president. When Biden was elected in 2020, I heard the same thing. That's not my president. Well, I'm sorry, I'm an American. Trump was my president from 2016 to 2020. Biden's been my president since 2020. And I don't know who's going to be my president come next January, but whoever gets elected and put in office is going to be my president, even if I don't like them. Well, rebellion, does that mean we can't say anything about wrong policies? Does that mean we can't say anything about wrong behavior? That we can't point out that we had a debate between, at the time, the two presidential candidates, and there was a lot of lies happening on that platform. And it wasn't just one-sided. Does that mean we can't point that out? That's rebellion? Well, no. And I love that because it's in the next verse. Verse 23. These things also belong to the wise. It is not good to have respect of persons in judgment. If you watch the news, often you will hear someone that has a respect of persons in their judgment. If you turn on the news and they talk about how much Trump lied, and they don't mention that Biden lied, well, I guess they have respect of persons. If you turn on the news and they talk about how much Biden lied, but they don't talk about what Trump lies that he told, well, then I guess you're listening to someone that has respect of persons. But as a believer, we're not supposed to have respect of persons. So the fourth thing for our wisdom for politics, don't have two standards of judgment. The two standard of judgments normally is one for ourselves and one for other people. When I pull out in front of someone in traffic, it's because I'm in a hurry and I'm important and there's someplace I have to go. When someone else pulls out in front of me in traffic, it's because they're a jerk. That's the epitome of two standards of judgment. One of the movies we've enjoyed as a family is, there's a line in there, you can't judge yourself on your motives and your dad on his actions. Can't remember which movie that's in. Is that Facing the Giants? What? Courageous. Yeah. That one? Okay. Well, what is that? That's two standards of judgment. Don't have respect. It is not good to have respect of persons. So don't have one standard of judgment for yourself or for your candidate or for those who agree with you, and a different standard of judgment for other people, the other side's candidate and the other party, or politicians on the other side. No favoritism in our judgment. Now, in a political year, there's a lot of favoritism in judgment. You'll hear it all the time. One side will say, look at this guy, look at what he's doing, or this gal, and look at what they're doing, while their candidate is engaged in the same. What is that? Respect of persons. As believers, we shouldn't have that. If you're going to call out the hypocrisy on one side, call it out on the other side. Call it out on your side. How do I know that's what it's telling us to do? Well, because in verse 24, after telling us not to have respect of person, but still in the same vein, he that saith unto the wicked, thou art righteous, him shall the people curse, nations shall abhor him. He that saith to the wicked, thou art righteous. Does this come into politicians? Yes. It's amazing to me that a week ago, President Biden was the worst person ever and he shouldn't be running for president, and Republicans and Democrats were saying the same thing. Then he announced he's stepping down from his campaign, and all of a sudden, if you've heard any news at all, anyone on the Democratic side is talking about what a wonderful president he has been. Like, huh? You're just pointing out all of his faults last week. What happened? You're just pointing out all the things he did wrong last week. What happened? Well, they don't mean what they say. They would call the wicked righteous. On the other side, I've seen people say that Trump was saved from the assassin's bullet by God. Do I believe that? Yes, in regards to the fact that God is sovereign over everything. Well, why would God save Trump and not the man sitting behind him? Well, I don't know. I'm not God. It's not my. And I've seen people say, well, if God saves your political candidate, but not the person sitting in the seats behind him, he's not a very good God. Well, I believe God is sovereign, but some people have turned that into a messianic style worship of Trump because he survived the assassin's bullet. Like, okay, how about we talk about the fact that Trump is a braggart and proud and lies all the time and is on his third wife, and I think he's cheated on all of his wives. And people are saying, he is the Lord's anointed. People have actually said that about Donald Trump. He that saith unto the wicked, thou art righteous, him shall the people curse. Nations shall abhor him. In our politics, we can't get so worked up about what we hope will happen if our candidate gets in that we decide that we're just going to praise them and ignore their wickedness. Don't let wickedness off the hook. So, well, I'm going to persecute the other side and all of their wrongs. Well, let's be fair. And let's not let ourselves off the hook or our candidates, not even for political gain. Because, well, there's been a lot of people hiding that Biden's been declining for a long time now. Yep, probably. And there are those around Donald Trump that are protecting him from himself as well. Don't let wickedness off the hook. There's no worship of personality, no pragmatic praise of evil. Well, I don't like what he does, but I like what he's accomplished. Hey, I'm not telling people who to vote for. I think as Christians, we should vote for someone that we can sleep well having voted for them. And then we ought to go to bed that night and sleep well, knowing that God's in control. And whoever we wake up the next morning to find out is our president, can be okay with that, and we can fear God and our president. But to say, we've got to get in our guy, because if we don't, then this is worse. Well, don't call wickedness righteousness. But verse 25, and here's where it comes in about the standard of judgment. But to them that rebuke him, the wicked, shall be delight, and a good blessing shall come upon them. Rebuke the wicked. Oh, I will. I'll rebuke the other side's person. I'll rebuke. Now, let's be fair in that. Well, like they're going to listen to me anyway. I don't think I'm going to get a conversation with Donald Trump or Biden. Oh, he's not running for office anymore. Or Kamala Harris. I don't think I'm going to end up sitting down with either of them to let them know that I see some shortcomings in their character. But rebuke the wicked. That means I'm not going to sit by and watch their wickedness and not respond to it. Well, how do we rebuke it? Well, I don't know. I'm not going to be able to sit down and tell them to their face. I can rebuke them with my vote. The last, I think, 3 presidential elections. Maybe it's been 4. It's been at least 4 presidential elections that I have not voted for the person that became president. Did I waste my vote? Nope. In the last 2 elections, I did not vote for either major political party's candidate. Oh, you wasted your vote then. Sure. Or maybe I rebuked some problems I saw at the ballot box and said, I'm not going to put up with this. I'm not going to vote for that. Maybe when I see people saying, well, how great this person is or how great this person is, I can point out, well, character-wise, there's some issues there. Maybe we need to consider that character. Well, yeah, but they're on our side. I don't care if they're on my side or not. If they're not on God's side, I don't suppose I really need to worry about if I'm on their side or not. I want to be on God's side. Now, does that mean, well, are you saying it's bad to vote for someone that has bad character? No, because every time you cast a vote, you're going to vote for someone with bad character. Because they're all human. And when Jesus Christ comes and rules and reigns, there's going to be no ballots cast for him. He is just going to rule and reign. And he doesn't need any ballots cast for him. We're going to vote for people that have flaws. But we need to not set aside our Christian values and our beliefs for a pragmatic, well, I think this person will accomplish something that I want to see accomplished. God's bigger than that. Don't worry. Don't fret, get worked up, angry about evil men. Don't be envious about what the wicked have. Fear God and our rulers, even the ones we don't like, maybe especially the ones we don't like. And don't have two standards of judgment. That's Solomon's wisdom for our politics. He didn't have any presidential elections, but he watched firsthand a lot of political upheaval beyond what we would understand in the country that we live in. Wisdom for this election year. We can relax. That's most of the wisdom, knowing that God's in control. Well, we will go offline for our time of prayer and praise tonight.